Hi everyone, it's Justine and this is my first ever Q&A video, so we'll see how it goes. Very exciting. Last week I called for questions. I've got more than enough questions back for a very long video. I got questions on Facebook, per email and in YouTube comments. There are questions about me, about studying, about designing, about portfolio making. I'll try and pick a good mix to answer a bit of all categories of questions, so to say. There are questions though that are a bit too long for 1 minute answer for this video. So for those I'll make dedicated videos at a later point. It doesn't mean I'm not answering the questions, I just park it for a proper longer answer later. I will also try to pack a lot of links in the description box below, so check that. Links to rankings, to blog posts, to resources that I find interesting as we go through the questions, so make sure to check the description box after watching this video. How can I make my mind more creative? That's $1 million question. I don't think there is a secret formula for that, but there is brain gymnastics, I could say, to get your creative juices flowing and then keep them flowing over time, if that makes sense. For instance, you can take pictures, then print them out, and every day you draw onto one picture. If you do that every day, you'll get better and more creative with time. Another thing can be, if you see something that you like, try to describe it with 3 adjectives. Precise ones, accurate ones. Another thing can be, for an emotion you're feeling at one point in time, try to find the corresponding color. All those little exercises every day, plus keeping a notebook always at hand or in your purse with you, will help you be more creative. Yeah, I think that's what it does. Where to order fabrics, where to find fabrics, etc. That's a key question indeed, and it's not so easy. It depends on which country you live in and where you can order from. There are websites you can order online from, but you can't actually touch the fabric, so you have to order a bit of it to see how it looks like. If you Google that, you'll find those websites very easily. And then if you can afford to buy a bit more, you have trade shows where you can order a roll or 50, 100 meters, it depends on the minimum order quantity of each fabric producer. You'll find the calendar for those trade shows. They're always published ahead of the year. You have trade shows, fabric trade shows, in North America, South America, in Europe, in Africa. I don't know any, but there has to be some. And in Asia. They are split throughout the whole year, so every month there is a trade show somewhere. If you look into the calendar, you'll find the dates. And then you can go there, visit. You can order samples if you have a tax number in general. If you don't, you can still have a look and get inspired, because those trade shows are open to everyone. From which town of France do you come from? What did you study? Love from France. Salut. So I studied in France and Germany. I have a master in management in marketing and a master of science in business administration with a focus on strategy, family business and entrepreneurship. That's the full name of the thing. There is a video in which I explain my career story. I studied business first and then I switched to fashion, and for that I went back to school and I studied fashion design and got a degree in New York. And where do I come from? I come from a very small town in the south of France called Aigues-Mortes. Try and spell that one if you can, foreigners. It's impossible. You can't hear half of the letters in that word. That's a small town in Camargue. That's basically the region where you have not so much, apart from salt fields everywhere you see, flamingos, bulls and white horses. Yep, that's why I left. One of the questions I get most often, not just this week but every week, several times per week, is can you help me make my portfolio for school, for university, for a job application? The answer is not really. The idea has to come from you. It's your process, it's a very personal thing to do a portfolio. It has to reflect how you think. If I intrude into that process, if I intervene into your creative thinking, it's gonna show and people will be able to tell that it's not your work because it will fit my personality instead of yours. So it's a very tricky line between giving you feedback and doing it for you, which I can't do. What I can help you with is give you feedback once you've started the process. So if you send me your work in progress at askjustineanything@gmail.com, I can help you, telling you, okay, what was the original idea? What are the skills you're trying to demonstrate? What's the purpose of that portfolio? All right, I get it. You could do it a little bit more like this, like that. It would demonstrate your skills or make your message a bit clearer. That's something I can do and that I can offer to help with. But the original idea, the seed, has to come from you because it depends on your personality, your culture, your experience, your tastes. What I can recommend, if you haven't done it yet, is to watch my video on portfolio making, which is linked here and in the description box below as well. That shows you the process. But again, the original idea, the initial thought, still has to come from you, and there is not really something I can do to help you generate the idea, so to say. Just look around, think about something you like, and I'm sure you'll find it. I get many questions about where should I study fashion. There are a ton of schools. There are fashion schools in every country. They pop out of the ground like mushrooms right now. It's very trendy to study fashion at the moment. So you have plenty of choice. The question is which one is the right for you. There is a ranking made yearly by the website Business of Fashion that I recommend you start with. I link it below. That ranking tells you internationally the best schools based on quite objective compared criteria. It's a good place to start. Then at the end, the decision is yours to see how flexible are you to move abroad to study. Is your English good enough? If English is not your mother tongue, what's your budget? And what's the focus you want to have in your career later? There are schools specialized in the conceptual part, other schools that train excellent sewers, and others that specialize in pattern making. So it depends on what you like and what you want to do. So start with the ranking and then research the individual schools to see which one fits you best. One very precise question about drawing. Do fashion designers use this 10-head technique, or is it just a method to train sketching? Do you use this technique in your everyday life as a designer? Actually, in persons, I learned to draw with 12 heads. So one woman body should be the height of 12 times the head. I prefer to draw with 10, and I do draw with 10 in my everyday work. I think that's a good compromise between true proportions of the woman and the modelly proportions you have on normal fashion illustrations. I find 10 heads is a good way to show your garment in a nice elongated fashiony way without screwing up the proportions too much. So yes, I use 10 heads. Many questions about how to start a fashion label. I get questions from we need some guidance to where should we start producing, which country, which quantity, what the process is. About the process, I did a video already about the practical part, which is linked here and in the description box below this video. That shows you the concrete steps, so to say. On top of that, you have to consider sourcing as a key thing, as well as the network you have. About sourcing, don't hesitate to take somebody close to you to do your production in your country or in neighboring countries. It keeps the logistics easy at the beginning. Trust me, you'll want easy. And visit them. Ask them how they work, ask them to do a few prototypes so that you can see the quality of the output. Be sure you have the right sourcing partner, otherwise it's going to be hell. About the network, check how many people you know in the industry. Do you know people in the press? Do you know people who can sell what you're doing? Do you have the qualifications or somebody who has them to help you build a website if you want to sell online, etc. So do assess the whole business aspects on top of your concrete designing skills, because the sewing, the designing in a fashion label is the smaller part of the work. The bigger part is selling it, getting it out there. That's running a business. So be sure you're aware of that as well. How to be a stylist quickly. Nice try. There's no shortcut for that. If you already have skills in sewing, pattern making, things like that, and you can get hired somehow by a company you feel you could learn a lot from, then do that. Thing is, companies usually hire people who have learned or experienced the skill they're applying for, so it might not be the easiest way, but it's surely the shortest. You want to gain practical experience before anything else, so get yourself hired somewhere by smart people who do a great creative job and you learn from them. Another much requested question is how to best prepare for a job in the fashion industry. And that question often comes from subscribers of my channel who are still in school, in high school. So the answer here very clearly, if you ask me, is start gaining practical experience. Do internships, do little jobs at fashion companies, try to work for magazines, help wherever you can. it will build a network for you that you will need later. It allows you to check whether the fashion industry is the right one for you and which job within the fashion industry fits you best. Practical experience will be required anyhow by companies later, so by the time you end your studies with your degree, you want to have gained as much practical experience as you can. I would like to know about size ranges or grading. How does it work? Grading, there are people who are graders, like that's a proper job in itself. It's not as easy as you would think. Grading means going from a size S to a size M, for instance, and it's not just increasing all the proportions by 10%. That would be easy, but no. Grading means, for instance, you take a dress, you go from a size S to a size M, you keep the height of the dress because the woman is not necessarily higher if she's one size more, but she will be a bit wider, so you increase the sleeves and the torso. So it's a non-proportional increase of some of the proportions of the garment, but not all of them, to cater for somebody who has the same height, but one size more. Typically, in European sizes, in centimeters, from one size to the next, you have plus 4 centimeters all around the body. So per quarter of the body, it's 1 centimeter more. So you'll add 2 centimeters on the front, 2 centimeters on the back patterns, and give you 4 centimeters in total. That's the short answer. Hi Justine, could you tell us something about your sewing machine? How often do you use it? What's your experience with sewing? I did not have any experience with sewing before I started studying. That's something I would not necessarily recommend, though they teach you sewing there with the proper technique from the beginning. I caught up and now I can sew just like everybody else. I wouldn't qualify myself as a good sewer. There are people who really learn that properly. They spend 30 years doing that. They're a lot better than I am. That's also why I have my clothes, my collection sourced and sewn outside of my atelier by a facility that has a ton of different machines. The machines that I have personally in my atelier at home right now are an industrial machine that sews only straight lines. It's a metal one, it can take in whatever you give it, leather, fabric, fur, all that stuff, though I use it mainly for knits because knits is what I like to work with. I have a home machine from Singer, which can do a bit more fancy stitches, but it can't take in so thick fabrics, and it's quite slow compared to the industrial one. And I have an overlock with 4 threads. What editing programs and other online tools do you use? I cut my videos in Adobe Premiere Pro Creative Cloud, which is the version available now, which is cloud-based, and then I use Photoshop Illustrator for the corrections to build the thumbnails, the colored pictures. And when I use pictures, they're usually from stock photos. There are different free resource websites on the internet I get pictures from. In terms of music, I usually use soundtracks and sound and tones from the YouTube library because they are free of rights and can be used without time limit for commercial purposes. As soon as you make YouTube videos and make your own thumbnail, it counts as commercial use. Which fashion houses do you follow or respect? And there was also a question about which brands I like. That's a difficult one because I haven't really bought clothes in about 2 years, and I stopped buying industrial and fast fashion clothes since I graduated anyways. I started to get allergic to cheap and bad fabrication since I know how to sew and how proper cloth making is supposed to look like. And my closet is shrinking down to a level that starts to be preoccupying indeed. I don't have anything to wear, literally. But I'm going to take an answer and say, in terms of houses I respect, I'd say Alexander McQueen, Hussein Chalayan. I mentioned that in my latest video. He presented at London again after 16 years. And I'd say Jill Sander for the very clean lines. That's almost business wear, what she used to do when she was still heading her name house. I think that's it. In terms of mass market brands, more affordable brands, I'd say Everlane, because I know they have an ethical process. For everything else, I'd have to pass. I buy on very small labels that are not available internationally. How do I define my style? That's the hardest question of all. It's like when people ask me, can you describe your style as a designer? And I'm like, no. Can you maybe help? Because it's so hard to judge your own work. And so I also have difficulties describing my own clothed style. I'm just gonna take a chance and give you 3 adjectives. I might change my mind later, but anyhow, I'd say casual, elegant, functional. And if I may add a 4th adjective, it might be lazy. I cheat a lot if I'm tired but I don't feel like suiting up. I'm just going to put on very red lipstick so everybody looks at my lips and nobody cares about what I'm wearing. I use tricks like that. I am not afraid to admit it. I think it's fine. If I work a lot, I have other things on my mind, and then it's okay not to look my best. I'm pragmatic about that. I'd like to know if you actually always sketch by hand, ? Your garment concepts for a collection before you go on to do your technical drawings, and also whether you outsource pattern making. 2 questions. The first question was about hand sketching. I do hand sketch still. I use technical drawings only later when the concept is in ink on paper and not in grey pencil anymore. Yes, I sketch everything. And about pattern making, do I outsource that? Yes and no. I do the first patterns, I do prototypes, but I have the final precise, perfect production patterns made externally on a specific paper, and it's made digitally, and it's much better than what I would get doing it by hand. So I have pattern makers doing that for me, and I trust in them completely. They're experts. Are haute couture brands profitable? It looks like their market is so tiny. It is indeed. I don't really know. I think that most haute couture houses are not profitable. That's why they also run ready-to-wear lines that bring the money in. Haute couture is a prestige thing. It's also where fashion is coming from, because in the past you didn't have industrial productions. You only had one-piece productions tailor-made on the body of the client. So haute couture was what fashion was about 100 years ago, and now it's something that got really luxurious, and you have ball gowns that are couture gowns. I don't think they produce more than 1 or 2 of those, and then the margin is really high, but the labor is also, it's not scalable. So I don't think haute couture houses are profitable. I think fashion houses overall, when they also have ready-to-wear lines and crews and pre-fall and stuff like that, they get profitable because of the rest. Next, I'd like to share with you a drawing that was sent to me by Mariam. It's her first fashion figure, according to what she wrote. And I want to show it to you because I like it a lot and it's very special. It actually looks like modern art. Her proportions are right from the head to the toes. What you did really well is the rendering of the skin, so that everybody who sees your drawing understands that the legs are actually curvy, that it's a volume, and you're shading the sides on the left and on the right. That's really good. I would probably give you 2 points to work on if you want to improve even further. The first one is to reduce the volume of the shoulder and lower it a little bit. Your shoulder should not be bigger than your knee. And the other thing is the shading on the blue jeans. You would need to shade the pants just like you shaded the legs. Apart from that, I think this is a very good first drawing. I wish my first drawing had looked like that. It wasn't the case, clearly. I have a question regarding dress forms. Let me read that one. A size 10 standard dress form has a completely different measurement than a ready-to-wear size 10 dress form, which is true. In the apparel industry, do they have custom-made dress forms, or is there a standard one that we can buy from a store? Dress form question. First, there isn't one standard worldwide, unfortunately, but there is also not just one body type worldwide, and there are countries where people are shorter, some where people are taller, wider, thinner, etc. The proportions vary, so for each region of the world it's normal that you need a different dress form. Then between ready-to-wear and couture it's also different, and then within ready-to-wear you have a differentiation between a Missy body, which is a regular normal body of a 25-year-old woman. Then you have a shape for older women because the proportions are different. Then you have a plus size standard, and then you have girl. And then you'd have the same differences for the men's side. My question, have you ever felt like it's too late to start studying in that industry? I didn't think it was too late. I still don't think it's too late. You're 27, it's definitely not too late. You're probably going to live until 80 or even more, so you have over 50 years to start over. That's plenty of time. Go ahead. I will stop here. I think I have covered, if not every question, at least every type of question and every topic, I believe, I hope. I also hope you found it useful. Let me know. Would you like another Q&A video sometime in the future? Better sooner, better later. Let me know. I'm really happy to help, and those Q&A videos are for you guys. I will see you before Sunday for a new video. If you want to follow what I do, subscribe and click that little bell so you actually get notified when I upload new content. I leave you here with 2 more videos that I mentioned right now, a few minutes ago, and I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye.